To whom it may concern, this letter I write to the VA Medical Center for my veterans claim. My name is Monty Dwayne Cosby Jr. I'm a United States Navy veteran. My last four, 8804. It's my last four. I don't know what you're gonna do with it. To whom it may concern, I, Monty Dwayne Cosby Jr., have struggled with the cycle of abuse and thoughts of suicide for as long as I can remember, and since I was born, since before I was born. The abuse, which I now know is generational abuse. This document will explain how my time in the United States Navy aggravated/activated in me mental health diagnoses. Bipolar 1, depression, PTSD, and ADHD. Tinnitus. That challenged me now and will challenge me for the rest of my life. Before we begin, I would like to thank you, the reader, myself, but you, the listener, for your courage, honor, and commitment to serve those who have served. My mother, who at the time was addicted to heroin and crack cocaine, gave birth to me on August 6, 1996 in Chicago, Illinois. My father, who at the time was addicted to alcohol and still is to this current day, and other substances that I did not know, gave me my first sip of alcohol before I was 4 years of age. Because my mother's constant and frequent narcotic use, I was left in my father's custody. We were homeless and dirt poor. Every night the sun went down, we would break into abandoned buildings for warmth. These buildings often were rat-infested, roach-infested, water bug-infested, feces-infested, and drug-infested. I did not mind because the critters were my friends. I contracted pneumonia 4 times before the age of 6. My earliest memory of my mother, when she rarely visited, was around the age of 2 to 3. I remember she would dangle me in the air by my leg and violently beat me with whatever was in the vicinity. Her bare hands, shoes, twigs from trees, pans, landlines from extension cords, etc., 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 until I could no longer cry because I was knocked unconscious. I've seen my mother stab my father multiple times with dull blades and shards of glass, blood leaking from his clothing. I've seen my father's gray matter spilling from his cracked skull all over the floor of the abandoned building where we were housed. My father had a partner who would sleep on my arm around the ages of 3 to 4, using it as a pillow. One morning, she didn't wake. I didn't mind her using my head as a pillow because I loved her. She was my baby, and I was her baby. One morning, she didn't wake, and I wasn't strong enough to remove her head from my arm. The medical providers that same morning burst into the abandoned building and carried her away on a stretcher, never to be seen again. I've seen my mother bash my sister's head against a brick building and then flee, leaving my sister there on the concrete and myself standing there hopeless. Again, the medical providers came and took her away. She's still alive. Riri, I love you. I remember hiding behind a couch and different items for protection as bullets were being shot from a moving vehicle, which I now know is known as drive-bys. This was the cycle for me until around 7 to 8 years of age. My mother lost custody of all 4 of her children. Then, after 17 years of narcotic use, decided to move to Minnesota to seek treatment and maintain sobriety. I grew up in the halls of NA. I'm an NA baby. She never sought out help for her mental health. So when she regained custody of her 3 youngest children, myself included, the physical abuse, violent beatings, for things as simple as leaving the top off the tube of toothpaste did not stop. The emotional abuse, giving me something to cry about, another beating, as if the first one, the reason I was crying in the first place, was not enough. The mental and psychological abuse. You gonna be just like your daddy on repeat, as she would lock me in my room after beating me for displeasing her with my performance in daycare, getting my clothes dirty while playing in dirt, as the other children, my peers, often did. Later in life, during my adolescence, ages 10 to 14, I would receive the same punishment, if not worse, for my school grades not being straight A's, like my older sisters. We moved to a new city in Minnesota a total of 8 times. Every other year, give or take, when our Section 8 housing lease was over, resulting in me never having a stable home, social life, or community. I ran away from home at the age of 15 because the abuse got so bad, resulting in me being homeless. My mother, she went to smack me and I caught her wrist. And I remember her looking me in the windows of my soul and said, "What? You gonna hit your mama now?" I looked in her eyes. I didn't agree with what I saw and I left. I grabbed my bag and I left. I never put my hands on my mother, just like I seen my father never put, not to my knowledge, he never put his hands on my mama. Even when she was coming at him with a knife. My father's a United States Army veteran. Monty Dwayne Cosby Sr., my grandfather, is a Army veteran. I ran away from home at the age of 15 because the abuse got so bad, resulting in me being homeless, living on the streets. At the time, my mother lived in Burnsville, Minnesota, where I graduated high school. At the age of 17, I decided to join the United States Navy. Really, I wanted to join the Marines. I wanted to be a jarhead. But my mom, I was 17 and she had to sign off on my papers. So she said, pick another branch, not there. And honestly, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful because I don't know who I would be if I would have had to take lives. If I was forced to take lives, innocent lives, I don't know who I would be to this day. Thank you. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Mom, for just thank you. My mother signed off on the papers because I was a minor. I flew out of MSP, Minneapolis Airport, a week or so later for basic training in Great Lakes, Illinois. In basic training, my division 923, my division's leading petty officer, first class, BM1 Hightower, headbutted my bottom lip in front of my peers, drawing blood. His reason was because you look like you just don't give a shit. I cried in front of everyone. This wasn't his first time abusing me. He also hazed me, harassed me constantly. I didn't report him at the time for breaking the UCMJ blue on blue because he has a family. At the time, he had a newborn child. If he treats me like this, he most likely treats other people like this. I do not want any punishment to come to him. I just want to get it out. I made it to my first command, the USS Curtis Wilbur DDG-54, stationed in Yokosuka, Japan. I was an E-1 undesignated seaman assigned to the deck division, where I was appointed the leader of a workforce known as a Tiger Team. I was the only sailor on the ship of 500 to 600 souls attached to this team. I single-handedly preservated, chipped paint, busted rust, primed and repainted over 80% of the ship, primarily outside in the sun, regardless of what division owned the area/equipment. I was a slave. Then I was written what's known as a counseling chit. Okay. When I voiced my discomfort, I was mentally, emotionally, and verbally abused and hazed. Then I was written what's known as a counseling chit. Instead of being rewarded for my efforts, I was punished and sent to see the captain of the ship for breaking the UCMJ. I joined the gunner's mate rate after 2 years of being undesignated. FC1 Kelly Romero was literally my mother, and the way she abused me mentally, emotionally, and psychologically. The only thing that runs my mind is snitch. And I just gotta tell the truth. Regardless of what you think of me, I'm telling the truth about my life and my story and my trauma. Please, please, Lord, forgive me. The time being abused under her command resulted in me being sent to see the captain 2 more times for a total of 3 times in 2 years. The toughest realization about being a gunner's mate is that when someone you train in weapon safety, anti-terrorism, live fire exercises, and threat recognition, when they looked around and they seen the threat everywhere they looked, it was their chiefs, it was their divos, it was their officers, it was their division leading petty officers, it was their peers. The threat was everywhere. Opportunity, capability, and intent is a threat triangle. Change someone in threat recognition took their own life after standing a watch that you armed them for. It's hard not to blame yourself for their suicide. When the USS John McCain ran aground during my time in Japan, my weapons officer voluntold us, her division, to assist with the ammo offload of the still partially flooded ship where my brothers and sisters drowned. I've read this story a lot. Where does it all tie into my current day reality? Where does this all tie into my current day reality, you ask? How has my time served in the military aggravated my mental health? I was grounded, restricted for what felt like 4 summers straight by my mother. In the military, I was on restriction for 2 out of the 3 summers while I was stationed in Japan, in Yokosuka, Japan. I don't like being put in boxes, literally, mentally, metaphorically, metaphysically. I don't like boxes. Spiritually, I don't like boxes. Claustrophobic. When I get weather weather/amber alerts on my cellular device, it takes me back to general quarters. General quarters, general quarters. It's time to man my battle stations. PTSD. It's a lot more than just that. I just used whatever was just on the top of the surface. When police lights flash, I feel a wave of terror submerge me. The fear of losing my life. Generational PTSD. When I work a job, the terror of disappointing my superior builds crippling anxiety to where I often break down when being asked about the simplest things. Bipolar 1. This normally leads to me being fired, which is why I haven't worked a job in the last 3 years. I would drink alcohol in the military with the intention to black out just so I could get some sleep. Now the smell of alcohol makes me gag, if not vomit. I don't really watch television. I don't watch television or read the newspaper because I'm afraid of being triggered, crippled by anxiety, and losing control, PTSD. I only watch Netflix, y'all. Control what you watch. I was hazed throughout my entire life, especially my entire military career for what I could gather, from what I can gather, the way my face looks, the color of my American skin. My grandfather is a United States Army veteran. My father is a United States Army veteran. I'm a United States Navy veteran. I am a generational warrior who, like my forefathers, will continue walking this path, my warrior's path, until the Almighty calls me home. I have a daughter. She needs her father, just as I did, and just as he did. If you are still reading this, listening to this, again, I thank you for your courage, honor, and commitment to serve those who have served. I love you. I truly do. Have a blessed day. God bless.